The Dragon Prince, a Chinese Beauty and the Beast tale by Lawrence Yep. Once there was a poor old farmer with 7 daughters. The land was so barren that he grew more rocks than rice. The family would have starved if it had not been for the youngest and prettiest daughter, 7. She could weave the finest silk and embroider the finest stitchery. Under the needle, unicorns, dragons, and other magical beasts came to life. Her work was famous among the noble families of the province. The third daughter, 3, was jealous of 7. "How come 7 gets to stay home while I have to go work in the dirt?" she asked. The father scolded her, "Because she cooks and cleans and does the work of 3, while you spend all day plucking one weed." One afternoon, when their father had gone to town to sell 7's silk, 3 found a golden serpent in the rice fields and raised her hoe to kill it. 7 had brought her family dinner down to the fields. "No, it's just a little water serpent," stopping her sister. The kind girl plucked the serpent and left it outside their fields. "Shame on you for scaring my sister," 7 said, setting the serpent down and walking away. The serpent wiggled right into the hills to a cave, where he began to dance in circles until he changed into a huge dragon. That afternoon, as the farmer returned home, the dragon sprang from the nearby cave and seized the farmer in its paw. "Give me one of your daughters for a wife, and I'll give you your life as her bride price." "I couldn't order one of them to do a terrible thing like that," the farmer cried. "Then prepare to die." The dragon raised a paw with claws so sharp they were as daggers. "No, wait!" the old farmer cried out in fright. Just then the oldest daughter came looking for him. When she saw the dragon clutching her father, she shrieked, "Papa, come home! 7 has made rice and fresh fish soup, especially for your supper." "My darling oldest child," the farmer said, "if you don't marry this dragon, I'll be his supper." "I'm sorry, Papa, but your supper will just have to get cold," she answered and ran away to hide. So it went with the next 5 daughters, until 7 herself came to find the rest of her family. When she saw the giant golden dragon, she walked slowly toward it, saying, "Papa, come home. I've made rice and fresh fish soup especially for your supper." The old farmer tried one last time. "My sweetest child, if you don't marry this dragon, I'll be his supper." 7's eyes measured the sharpness of the dragon's teeth and claws and the power of the armored body, and she was afraid. Yet she could not let her father suffer such a terrible fate. "Then you can have your supper, Papa, because I will marry the dragon." Releasing the farmer, the dragon reared up into the air. "Climb onto my back." As soon as 7 did, the dragon shot into the night sky like a meteor. Higher and higher they soared, over hills and mountains, past deserts and seas, on, until the sleeping world became a ball of dark velvet, and the lakes silvery sequins. Still higher and farther the dragon raced, until the Milky Way wound its way across the night sky like an endless bolt of the whitest silk. They flew so fast that they caught up with the moon, which shone like a giant pearl upon the sea, and within the sea lay towns and strange gardens and waving forests of kelp. With one last surge they plunged beneath the surface of a vast palace of living coral. 7 found she could breathe beneath the water. Setting her on her feet in the courtyard, the dragon kept his paw round her. "Aren't you frightened? I could crush you like a twig." For a moment 7 stood utterly still in his paws, gazing up at the dragon's face. His scales gleamed like jewels in the golden net, and his eyes shone like twin suns. It was a face of terror and a face of beauty. It was a face of magic. Slowly she stretched out her arm, and for a moment his large head flinched from her tiny hand. "I know the loom and the stove, and many ordinary things," she said, "but my hand has never touched wonder." This time, when she stretched out her hand, his head remained still, but the big eyes watched her. Gently she stroked his cheek. "You are beautiful." "You are beautiful," the dragon replied. "But you really should be frightened," he insisted. Seven smiled. "The eye sees what it will, but the heart sees what it should. If you had meant to harm me, you would have done so already. I've worn many disguises and scoured the sky, land, and sea, but I haven't found anyone who is your match. You are brave and kind and true as well as beautiful," the dragon cried. He leaped away from her and began to dance, curling his powerful body as easily as a giant golden ribbon, and overhead on the surface of the sea, the moon seemed to dissolve and fuse again like a school of fish darting this way and that. Then he began to spin in the water until he became a column of light, and from the light stepped a handsome prince. "Now will it be such a terrible fate to marry me?" he asked. Seven took his hand. "No," she laughed. Seven wore elegant silk robes, dined on the rarest delicacies from gold plates, and drank from jade cups. A dozen maids obeyed her slightest whim. Even so, she was not used to being idle and asked for a loom. But now she embroidered only golden dragons on shoes she made just for her prince. But as the days passed, Seven became sad and lost her appetite. When her husband asked her the reason, she told him she missed her family. Then he said, "I understand it is custom among your kind that brides may visit their families after they marry, but you must come back in 10 days. Seven promised. That very night she slipped into her finest robe and put on her jewelry, while her maids decorated her hair with precious pearls and jade. When she was ready, she climbed into a chair of gold and coral, and her maids and her servants lifted her out of the sea and into the air. Behind her chair flew all her maids. Her family was astonished the next morning when the glittering procession descended up from the sky. Seven bowed to her father and greeted her sisters. "You'll never have to work or go hungry again with all the gifts I brought you," she said. When Seven told them all about her husband, the family was happy for her, except for Three. Three envied her sister's jewels and clothes and servants. "They should have been mine," she said to herself. So the next day she took Seven down to the river for a picnic. There she asked her, "Little sister, may I try on your things?" To please Three, Seven exchanged clothes with her and let her put on her jewelry. Then they went down to the river to look at their reflections. But as Seven leaned over to see her image, Three knocked her on the head and shoved her into the river. When Three told the rest of the family what she had done, she warned them, "The prince will come back as a dragon and eat us all if you don't do what I say." And they were so afraid that they did. They told Seven's servants that she had fallen ill and sent a message to the prince. "Don't be surprised if she looks different," they told him. When the prince heard, he didn't care. In that short time, Seven had come to mean everything to him, not for her beauty, but for her kindness.